Shamyatam, I said it. I disappeared. The internet went bad.
Yeah. I understand. So last time we looked into several things which were kind of leading us to the Sphota theory. Yes? The Sphota theory was first introduced by Patanjali. In his Mahabhashya, he mentions Sphota, and then we have it in Bhartrihari and Bhartrihari Vakya Padiya. It's a very important treatise on the Sphota. So, and after that, all tantric literature is taking that insight from Bhartrihari. Basically, they consider Bhartrihari to be nearly the father of this Sphota theory. Yes? Kashmirian Shaivism, Abhinavagupta, everything is built on this vision of Vakyapadiya. And it is a profound treatise. We actually studied it in Pune University 30-something years back. The idea of Sphota, as you understand in Sanskrit, it is the disclosure, opening, like the flower is opening the petals. Yeah? So the idea is how we perceive the meaning, how the meaning is being open, how the disclosure of meaning from the action of consciousness. So the speaking somehow leads to this opening of the meaning. So we receive this opening of the meaning in a very interesting way. According to the ancient Indian tradition, there are several layers, layer upon layer, where the disclosure of meaning is taking place, which is not the case in if you find it in the general linguistics today. They do not see it in this way, in this complexity. The complexity is not really understood totally. Of course, it is understood, but it cannot be handled because we do not have the, the mind which would permit us to do this easily. So we spoke about semantics, syntactics, and pragmatics. These are three branches of semiotics, of studies of meaning. So there is pragmatics is the, as you understand, an application. Is what we say pragmatic meaning, application of meaning to some other third-party context. So we can apply it, what it means, what it is for we are doing it. Yeah? So it is kind of wider context. But syntactics stays within the text, what within the text it means. Yeah? Like Vakyapadiya, we would say that is syntactic semantics. And then there is semantics per se, which is the message, the meaning, the intention of what is being communicated. So we can see that the text is not really saying only what it says. It says something else also, and that is the meaning. We discussed this about the presumption and presupposition in the text. When somebody comes to the classroom and says, Anuradha will go to Chennai today, what does he say really? So he says that many things. He doesn't say that Anuradha will go to Chennai today. He says that somebody else will not go, that it was discussed, that it was decided, that everybody in the classroom knows about this process of decision. You see how many things it says. And then finally, and that is something which is going beyond immediate syntactic semantics, beyond the text itself. So that presupposition, that pashyanti vak, that aha moment, is hiding behind the text as a message to be followed, to be understood. So the best thinkers, or the best way of perceiving what people say, is not to listen what they speak actually, but to listen to what they want to say, because there is a message always. So if we are capable to hear what they want to say, not what they say, because they may not have the right means to express themselves. Usually that is the case, yes? That's why we start quarreling about the words, but it is not like this, but it is not like that, as if it is the message. It is not the message. Yes, Sharad?
Reading in between the lines.
Kind of, yes. It's another way of saying reading in between the lines. It's a little bit flat, reading in between the lines. It's more, it's like rising above, not staying on the same flat level. It's kind of finding the purpose, the meaning, which is there hiding behind the text. And even sometimes person who says this may not even know totally the message. Yes, Anuradha. You wanted to say something, Anuradha, no? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was saying that at the end, even a word, the articulated word through language is a finite expression of the thought behind. Because I could have chosen to say it in English, I could have chosen to say it in the verbal formulation of it, articulation of it. So I guess what is being intended is to try and capture that vibration of the intent through the thought, the thought intent.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And understand that the words are couching an intention.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only words, but how you articulate the words. That strength you put into it, the pauses you make in between. Everything is leading to that. Yes, Sharangi.
Is it putting reference and the context together to what we
Context.
say?
Yeah.
Reference and context.
Reference context, yes, context is very important because it is within the context that the message is coming through. Yes, it comes for something within the built context. You can change the context with the message, and why you change the context with the message is also important. That is the message. So not that you suddenly change the topic and change the context in which we already settled, so to say, our understanding, but suddenly you introduce an element which does not belong to this context. So why do you do this? Do you really want to speak about the element, or you want to change the context? And why do you want to change the context? There is a reason behind it, and that is the meaning. So meaning is farther away than we may see it or perceive it immediately. And the person may not even be able to express it, to explain it, but he feels it rather, or he's driven by it, as it were. So if we would communicate in a proper way, we would help the person to discover that intent, so to say, um, to remove all those misunderstandings in the text, also the syntactic semantics, the structural misunderstanding, and to arrive at his need to express that point which he is looking for to express through the language he is using and communication. And many times, 99% of the time, we are not expressing it correctly. And that means we need help. That's why we always say, do you know what I mean? Because truly speaking, I didn't get to the point. Yeah? My language was poor carrier of my meaning. I didn't find the language. We are not really capable to express it properly. This is a weird part of our We are all missing the point, and by missing the point, we are pointing to something we want to point to.
Just one question.
Yes.
Actually, when we try to express something, before expressing, we should think it in our mind what you are going to express. Is it so?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and another thing, what we think, are we thinking in our mother tongue or any specific language are we thinking, or how are you thinking actually? In which language are we thinking?
Yes, languages, different languages. You may choose mother tongue, you may choose some other foreign language, you can choose even some other language, musical, artistic, painting, mathematical. There are many languages through which you can express that idea which comes to you. It depends to whom you are talking, who is your audience, who is the listener. So the listener, first listener is you. You speak to yourself. So you are the listener, your surface mind is the listener. He has to understand the mind, the surface mind. So that's why we need to articulate the thought that our surface consciousness will understand. This is, once it is understood, you can try to express it to others. Yeah? They are the same listener who would take that surface and translate it into the inner meaning of yours. And that is Sphota. I wanted to arrive at a disclosure of meaning, how it takes place. Yeah? So we are listening to the articulations rather than to the sounds. Sounds are articulating the meanings which we have to perceive. So we re-articulate articulations, and in this way we arrive at the same meaning or the same state of consciousness which the speaker had. So we can join him, we can understand him or her. Yeah. Yes, Shailaja, you wanted to say something, and
yes, I wanted to say that sometimes it's also an expectation or a cultural setting which the speaker does not find it proper to express. For instance, if there's an elderly person and a younger person, and it's the last piece of mango, for instance, yeah. So the elderly person will say, you know, you can have the last one, but maybe the meaning is, can I if you don't want, you know? Or let's say once I had a little diary with me, and there was an elderly lady who said, you know, Shailaja, you can use this diary. And later I understood that she meant to say, actually, I don't want, you can have it, you know? Or, yeah, or the instance when, you know, I was keeping my son with my daughter for, you know, a day. And I said, you know, Sagu, if you want, I can find somebody else also to take care of him. And I wanted her to say to me, no, mom, be rest assured, I will handle. But I'm not saying it, you see? So sometimes you are saying something else by the words that you're saying.
that's absolutely true, what you say. And it is
Yeah,
more in India than anywhere else in the world. Yeah,
possible, that's possible.
it's very
Because
true.
certain cultural shyness
Yeah, and
or
that, yeah, absolutely. And that kind of, moral behavior, and you cannot promote yourself.
yes,
It's okay. Please don't trouble yourself. I don't need tea. I want tea so much. No, please. We have to force you to have 3 times. There is an anecdote about this. The person comes from the wedding and wedding day, and he says, "How was wedding? Was good food?" "No, I didn't eat." "Why?" "They didn't force me enough to eat." So they have to force you, to feed you, and then you will be eating. So this is exactly what you're saying, that cultural, yes, element.
can be easily understood with the next example that I gave you. It gets more complex slowly
Hmm.
because you're not able to clearly express your intention. You don't want to force somebody else. You're trying to also figure out if the other person is capable or not. There are so many thoughts behind your mind, in your
Absolutely.
mind. when you're saying this one sentence.
Super. Very good example. Thank you. This is great. And many times also when people say, so you are so great, but you are just doing wrong. So it means just the opposite. Yeah. Totally the opposite. So you're good. That means, yeah. Admiral.
The other one was like in the US, I had the opposite experience where they use words very lightly. So they say, I love you for every little thing, like, oh, I love you. It's like a passing by thing.
Right,
So I
right.
asked my friend, I said, when you really love someone, what do you tell that person? And she was really stumped for a moment because, like when you
Not much
overuse
to say.
something which has a deeper meaning, then you don't know what to say. When you actually love someone, then what would you tell that person?
You will say, I like you. Yes, well, you have to say something different, yes, to make it. I love you very, 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 very much, then. That exaggeration, yes, takes place. And in the US, of course, people are totally different, and you can't force anybody to eat anything. They will be very offended. If you offer somebody something and then he doesn't take and you offer again, they will be offended. I was so surprised. So I'm kind of extending my hospitality and that hospitality is taken as a opposite way. So this happens. It's a cultural difference, definitely. And it has to be taken into account. But the meaning is still being read somewhere, yes? The meaning, the intention, once we know the intention, we can behave in the manner which is appropriate for that cultural setting. So you can say, no, I don't want, because it's appropriate for that cultural setting. Even if you want that cup of tea, you say, no, you will be okay without it. And not just grab it and immediately drink and say thank you, which is oops. Like also was surprised for me after being in India for so long, coming to US, that people are just doing it. Whatever they say, they do. Yeah, they don't waste time on this kind of. In India, in these conferences, when they start introducing someone, it can be a very long time to hear how great person he is, how important he is. So the half of the time goes for this kind of introduction. So that's also a cultural setting. Yes. So, Sphota, what is that disclosure of meaning? We have to find it. And it has layers upon layers. The word, the articulation of the word, the sound we choose. This is the lowest level of disclosure of meaning, which is called Varna Sphota. Revelation of the sound. Why you chose that particular word with those particular sounds as a use. You choose something, with very strong words like, crushing, breaking. That means that there's already some kind of attitude or some kind of force which you want to manifest. Yeah. Or you are choosing something else, some other words, which are less beating you or less energetic. They're softer words. So that is Varna Sphota. Varna Sphota is the level where on the level of the sounds, you make a choice. And we spoke about this, about a big, huge, great, immense ocean. And all of these oceans are different oceans. And your choice would be either it is huge, or it is big, or it is great. So that choice of sounds, of words which you chose, is telling us something. Yeah. To you also, when you pronounce it, your surface consciousness understands that in a particular way. It's amazing that we are speaking actually to ourselves. That's why we are listening to what we say. And most probably you notice that sometimes you can surprise yourself. You can say something which will be so interesting for you to know. So, and you will say, wow, look, I really did it. I did say something which makes sense. How come? That means that inner speech, inner being, is tuning language in such a way that it can come through to the surface consciousness, which will understand it and reconnect with it. And that form can be easily communicated to others, because through that they can reconstruct and come to that meaning. All right, that's the basics of Sphota. I will show some, there's some projection. 1 second. I have to find it. And we will look into these elements of where is my this? Here it is. We spoke about this already. Sphota. So, did we speak about Sphota already? No, not yet. So, Sphota theory, disclosure of meaning. So we have levels. Yeah, we have Varna Sphota, the level of the sounds, which I was trying to explain right now. That choice of sounds, of hues, of colors. And then Pada Sphota, choice of words is very important. Depends on the Varna also, partially, mainly, but also how the word is used within the context of language. Yeah, what word do you use? The usage within the context of language is very important. So you will choose dharma, or you will choose some kind of, I don't know, some other word like, well, dharma is so unique that there is no substitute for it. But there are choices which will allow you to be more precise, or be farther away from, or closer to the meaning you want to express. And that also is meaningful, Padaspota. So you can choose, I don't know, taru or vriksha, or so tree, different words for tree, or yeah. And that makes sense, because then you will imply something. The usage or in the language will be an implication.
Sorry, can I just ask one thing? Can I ask one thing?
Yeah, please.
So the Varna Sphota, it is at the level of Varna Sphota that the choice of language takes place, na? Because different languages have different Varnas. So it is at the level of Varna Sphota that the choice of language happens. And then within the language, there can be Pada Sphota, which means that which word, and then Vakya Sphota, of course, will follow. But that first choice of which language happens possibly at the first Varna Sphota level itself.
It's nice what you propose. Truly speaking, it's even more subtle. Within the same language, you can choose certain words like a huge or big ocean, yeah, which is kind of a need. It's like a poetic need to choose a particular formulation within the sound, yeah, like poets feel this. Like Sri Aurobindo chooses the words like long lane, so he will choose these L. Why? Because it actually manifests something of this feeling, of the sense of the being.
Would that not be at the Pada level? Would that not be the Pada Sphota?
Yes, definitely. That's what I said. It's connected subtly to the Pada, because in the Pada you choose a particular Varna which is doing something. It's kind of standing behind. By the way, in Patanjali, he was against Varna Sphota, and he speaks about this. Yeah, he takes 3 words, Supa, Yupa, and Kupa, and he says they have the same accentuation, the same formation, but 3 different meanings, and only one element is different, K, S, and Y. Yeah? And he says, if it is so, then k, s, and y has to have a meaning, which is changing the meaning of the word. That's how he arrives at it. By the way, I can say that it is in a way a mistake, because there is no k, s, or y. There is ku, su, and yu. There are only syllables. And if you remove from the syllable vowel, you don't have this formation k. K does not exist without a vowel. So there is a root behind ku, su, and yu. And these roots have meaning. All of them have meaning. Yeah. And that is something interesting. Ku is that kupa, that cave, yeah, the same carp, coop, that cavity, and that is the meaning of ku, and that is the ku from here, even kavi, yeah, from kavya and so on. It is to call also. This to speak. This kind of when in the cave you have that space which is holding the sound in a way. Yeah. And you can see all these roots, ku, gu, gu, all of them have this meaning of speaking, calling, making sound. It's quite amazing if you start analyzing the etymological background of these. So in my view, though Patanjali is a great master of language in every way and interpreter, this is a big blunder. So because there are no letters in Sanskrit, there are syllables. Yeah? So, and these syllables are meaningful. And not k. K cannot have any meaning because it's not really even a sound. But ku, yes. Su, yes. Su is another super. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Soup, actually. Soup. And yupa is the stand, the pillar, the sacrificial pillar. Yeah. Stamba, so to say. And yupa is to which you tie. You is actually to tie, to hold the sacrificial animal. So tying something to this pole. This is the pole to which it is being tied. So you can figure out the meaning through the etymological. So I don't think that from there he kind of denies the Varna Sphota. He says there is no meaning in the Varna. There is meaning only in the Pada. That's his definition. So only word, and that is quite interesting because Saussure, Ferdinand de Saussure, our kind of father of general linguistics in the West, he follows the same idea. He says that phonemes have only differentiated significance, not meaning in themselves. And I disagree totally. And Sri Aurobindo disagrees. Sri Aurobindo gives us meanings. Yeah. And he is totally right. If we start analyzing how the words are built, how the roots are built, how the meanings they acquire, how the contextual meanings they used in the context, then we will see that Sri Aurobindo is totally right. And then we will come to the Vedic language and we will be surprised how deep it goes. Because in the Vedic language, rishis felt exactly the word to be used, and that technicality of the sound builds up the meaning. Is there you say the echo? Something? Somebody says that there is an echo.
No, I don't know.
No?
No.
No, okay. Sorry. Okay, that is Varna Sphota, Pada Sphota. Pada Sphota is, I will give more definitions now in a minute. And Vakya Sphota. According to Bhartrihari, there is no even Pada Sphota. There is only Vakya Sphota. So the text itself tells us something and not the word. If I say vriksha doesn't say much.
So just one thing, Varnas, who talks about Varna Sphota then?
Oh, yeah, it exists here, but Bhartrihari, it is later, yes, in the tantric tradition, yes. It's not in Bhartrihari, well, it's not mentioned as meaningful, definitely, even Padaspota. Vakya Padiya, he speaks of Vakya and Pada. So Varnaspota, let me read the definitions, it would help. Varnaspota is defined as denotative, vachaka, when a single phoneme or a stem or affix is found to be so, and therefore the Varnaspota is taking place. So look, they are taking Varnaspota as grammatical significance of suffixes, affixes, elements which are building the phoneme or the morpheme, sorry, the pada, the word. So this theory utilizes the analysis of from bottom to top. We never think in those ways, from the bottom, from the sounds we choose to the top of the meaning, which is mainly found in grammatical treatises such as Panini's descriptive grammar. This is my text, but doesn't matter. Varnaspota has its own difficulties in the immediate application to the analysis of the word, especially when the synthetic forms of the word are examined, such as ghatena, with the pot. Where is here that varna which would be responsible for that particular tritiya vibhakti? No? So, because synthetically it is changing, it's very flexible. There is a flexema. It's not like separate affix I can define as in Tamil. Tamil has very clearly defined affixes, yeah, which have grammatical significance. It's not so easy in the synthetic languages like Sanskrit. For it cannot clearly define them into separate and meaningful units. This is the difficulty. It's not important for us now. What is important is the general significance of Varna, which belongs to Brihaspati's speech. And what I want to say, what Indra did, Indra created the alphabet from that significant, meaningful sounding of Brihaspati. He actually cut into pieces that sound into particularly articulated sounds as meaningful. Alphabet, Varna, Mala, Akshara Mala. It is his first creation. He created the alphabet. Then he created the words by the mental categories of subject, object, time, causality, space. So these objects, these words were shaped through the sounds, and finally the text, the relations within the text, through vibhaktis, karakas, cases. We looked into the cases last time, is it not so? 7 cases, 7 karakas.
Yes.
By the way, I would like to know, because we will arrive at this Sphota of karakas, because it is the bigger context within the text. What did you think about it? I was suggesting for you to figure out why these 7. What is the hierarchy of 7? No, you didn't have time. Okay, we will come to it in a minute again. So Varnaspota is that sound quality, or that particularity of these choices of the phonemes within the word. Padaspota maintains that the finished word, being a unique entity, conveys the meaning, like vrikshach or ashvach, yeah? And the division into the morphological components, that is root, suffix, ending, such as suffixes, stems, etc., does not occur when the speaker or hearer perceives it as meaningful. So if I say ghatena, it means with the pot. you don't split it into suffix and understand that that suffix means that, or that ending means this. You do not do the analysis. You feel the meaning, ghatena, with the pot. This theory claims that the text can be described by listening to the words and their meaning, as well as by perceiving the relation between them in a syntactic structure of a sentence. It is by listening to the meaning of every word and linking it, meaning, with another word that the meaning of the sentence can be understood. That is Sphota theory. So we listen word to word and link them until linkage is done and the text is understood. But since the meaning of the sentence is the last to be grasped, then the Sphota theory is found insufficient in the description of perception of meaning and leads to the next level of synthesis, Vakya Sphota. And it's quite obvious. If I say vriksha or tree, you will ask me what tree? You want to know what I want to say. I would say the tree is, you will say what is? And then I will say the tree is beautiful. Ah, okay. Now I get the meaning. So neither beautiful nor is nor tree has a meaning in itself as a message. Yes.
So can I just discuss this in another way? Because when I was doing a little bit of the Mimamsa, when Tarka Sangraha and Mimamsa in my masters, we were looking at the whole concept of the Shakti, Akanksha and Shakti. Where lies the Shakti of the word? Where is the Akanksha, the intention? And the example that was given was that if somebody walks into the door, I can say, close the door. Dwaram pidhehi, meaning understood. Then the Purva Paksha says, but what if the person enters and you say Dwaram? The person still understands that Dwaram pidhehi. So it's not in the whole meaning. Is it in the word? And then the Purva Paksha goes on and says that if a person walks into the door and you just do this, the person closes the door. So without even any utterance, the meaning is grasped. So therefore, where lies the Akanksha? So I just remember that argument, but
super
not
beautiful, and very
because
useful
it's
for our
a
study.
counter.
Mm-hmm. There are many languages which can convey the message. Yeah, you can be gesture. That gesture close the door, and that is more than enough. Person understands. It's not first time he sees this. He understood because in the context he just went through the door, he opened it and didn't close it. He already understands. So you don't need. You just can even look at it, and he will understand. But you just look at the door. So there are many ways of conveying the meaning. Many languages can be used, and that is the body language, the language of netra avadhana, which I was mentioning, with the eye, with the look. You can look into the face of the person, not at the door even, and he will go and look and close the door. So, and especially in India, it's very developed, this intuitive reading of, of the meaning. Reading different languages. India is very rich in many languages. So in India, there is no one person who speaks only one language. At least 3, 4, if no more. In that case, of course, India is supremely intelligent. It's not US, where people speak only one language. Or UK. They are kind of suffering. They are kind of, suffering their predominance before because they dominated the whole world. Now they don't need to speak any other language but English, and then they lost a lot on their level of intelligence. Speaking many languages and being able to communicate and understand is an amazing resource for our intelligence. So Sphota is quite clear. It is insufficient, but it is a part of the reading of the meaning. So Varna, Sphota is a part, the choice of the sounds we choose for particular expressions, for particular objects. We choose the words which have different quality of the sound, the way how we speak, the way how we pronounce, articulate, this what Shakti, where we put Shakti onto each word stress, what we stress, what we don't stress, how we change intonation, all of it makes sense, you know, and plays the role. And then Vakya Sphota as a text. And the text is read as Jnana Shakti in Tantra. So Jnana Shakti will be within the context of the syntactic semantics. So the tree is beautiful is meaningful sentence. Whatever way I say. I can change my intonation, I can change the choices of words, but this meaning will stay, and that is something interesting. Yeah, it's Vakya Sphota, the meaning of the text. Why? Because it's always one equals to the other. So there is a major name and there is a predicate. Predicate explains the major name. Once that explanation is done, the sentence is done. The meaning is revealed. 1 equals 1. That is what we do. 1 plus 2 equals 3. This is the structure. That equals is the verb which holds the whole thing. Yeah? 2 equals 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 is predicate. 2 is the name, major name. Equals is the verb. The tree is equals beautiful. It's quite amazing, yeah, that it works like this. If I say the tree is and don't give beautiful, then you would feel like it's not done. It has to be something there. You have to say what the tree is. Yeah. Makes sense? It's a very simplistic structure. If I take more complex, such as Karakas, and now we come to Karakas, which we looked into last time, I will make a definition of Vakya Sphota first. Vakya Sphota maintains that the sentence is a unique entity which conveys the meaning. A sentence or a text itself is a unit of meaning, according to Bhartrihari. Vakya Sphota, however, does not claim that the constituents of the sentence do not have any meaning. Look how beautifully it is kind of maintained. So all the meanings within the meanings are maintained. The main point of this theory is that the word should be always seen and understood in its context. The words have their meaning only when they form a part of a sentence. Yes, Anuradha.
So my question is this. So and this is what we normally, when I'm presenting Sanskrit, so we see that in Sanskrit, the amount of coding that is there in the words is greater than, let's say, in English. So if I say balakaha, I'm already implying that it's the subject, and I've given a lot more information about that word. Where rather than when I've said boy, or I say hastena, I have communicated a lot more within that word itself. So how does that, in the light of this Vakya Sphota, how does that constituents containing more meaning play out?
I think it's not maybe totally so. It's just different ways of conveying the same meaning. There is a universal syntactic semantics. For example, you say ghatena, or you say with the pot. Yeah? So because English is analytic language and Sanskrit is synthetic type and analyticism and synthetism can be compared in a very easy way. How many words you need to say the same sentence in English and in Sanskrit? For example, Vidyalayam gacchami, I go to the school. In English, it would be I am going to the school. 6 words. I am going to the school. 6 words. Vidyalayam gacchami. 2 words. 2 against 6. This is how we measure analytism. So too many words which do not have immediate significance, so to say meaningful, like there, to, these are grammatical words. Yeah, auxiliary verb is going, making it present continuous, and so on. So this is, and you must use I always. You cannot say going to the school. It's not like Chinese, yeah, where you can omit everything. And in Sanskrit, gachami is I go. So you don't need to say I, aham gachami. And Vidyalayam tells you that it is an accusative case. That's it. You already have it in 2 words. So, and it is very flexible. Movement from analytism to synthetism is very flexible. Sanskrit also can become very analytic if you want to, with many prepositions and many postpositions, and it's started to be used in classical Sanskrit, like prati, graham prati, yeah, or prati is in postposition. You hear this, yeah? Or these analytic forms like tesham krite, yeah? Tesham krite, for their sake, for them. So why krite is used in that interesting form, and there are many forms. It just doesn't come to my mind immediately. But if you analyze Sanskrita Bharati speech, you will find the iti karanataha, or all the time they are using analytic forms. Why? Because it's easier to remember, easier to use. That's more appropriate to this particular mind, which is very rational, very analytic, less and less synthetic, farther away from the Varna Sphota, because Varna doesn't make any sense anymore. It's only a structure. You have to convey a structure. Please convey the structure, and then we will understand what you want. That's where we are stuck, yeah? Where we are deviated from the Rishi's language. They are not in the structure. They are within the Varna. They choose the words with the meaning of the vibration, which we lost. We became very mental beings. And if you start comparing, you will see that somebody, when I studied, I remember Norwegian, because I lived in Norway, and then a Norwegian teacher tells me that there is no instrumental case in Norwegian language. I laugh. How can you manage language without no instrumental case? And how would you use it in the passive voice, for example? The house is built by him. I said, oh, by him is not the instrumental case. I say, it's just analytic form of instrumental case. Analytic form of karaka, which is karanam. By what means you get there. So you can't avoid these cases. And that's what we have in English. Yeah? In English, we have by or with, that is instrumental, for or to, that is dative, from or because of, that is ablative, yeah? Of, that is genitive, in, on, among, it is locative. That's where the cases come in. And they don't consider them to be cases. No, that is just a preference of understanding or naming things. Yeah? But understanding will be within them. So analytic forms will remain as parallel to synthetic forms. And yeah, they're just, synthetic forms are more brief, more to the point, and analytic forms are more abstract in a way. They introduce more capacity of abstract mind. Okay? Oh, it is not the answer, Anurada. I was trying to answer the difference between synthetic and analytic.
Yeah, I was just wondering that it is not, I mean, the last conclusion that you had, that it is more abstract mind. I don't fully, I mean, why would you make that jump? Because
maybe it is a preliminary. Maybe it was wrong of me to say that it is abstract mind. I meant to say more rational, more mechanical, more
utilitarian, probably it's more
yeah,
utilitarian.
Yes, maybe the better word, utilitarian, though also it does not do justice to synthetic language because it's also supremely utilitarian.
Correct. Correct.
So there is no right word to find. I said abstract because of abstract means it's not really concrete. It's not really living already. It's like a little bit dead, as it were. mental,
Can,
mental.
okay.
But Sanskrit is unique
Can we say
because
something like, can, sorry, can we say something like insulated? Words are more insulated. They are not, they've lost their organic connections with each other.
could be, yes. It is withdrawn from its own kind of trouble to be involved into the sound creative process. It is actually no more creating of sound. You will notice that the English lost all capacity to create all these suffixes and many, like Russian, for example, or Italian. Italian is still synthetic in many ways, and so you can create such words as cipollure, cipollare, cipollone, cipollucce, cipollino. So one cipolo becomes so many words because they feel the sound. So that synthetism is very creative. It creates words. Yeah, it is fluid. Analytic forms, they're stuck to that particular one form. You cannot make from son some my dear son or my beloved son. You have to add another analytical form. In Sanskrit, you say putrakaha. Putrakah is like my dear son or my small beloved son. That ka suffix makes it more intimate, more closer to you, something. So it's a strange thing about synthetism and analytism. So, of course, it's a big topic and very interesting, by the way, to analyze how differently they function. Hindi became very analytic, yeah, absolutely analytic. So even maybe more analytic than English even. But interestingly, if you start comparing and seeing what is happening there within the language, but the point is here is that Sanskrit also can be analytic if it wants to be. You can start using yada tada, yatra tatra. These are analytisms, yeah, which are helping us to build a sentence in a structure which is understood by anyone. If I start speaking in this way, yatra patihi tatra patni, then everybody would understand, everyone, yeah, because I build a structure. Yeah? So, and the rest is just filling in. But if I start speaking as Vedic rishis, it's much more intuitive and sound involving. We need both. We need both faculties of clear structure, clear morphology, and clear phonetics. All of this we need.
Sorry, can I share one more thing? I mean,
Sure.
just it was an interesting observation when I was doing this social linguistics. So we were looking at the Western languages, so the Romanesque language groups. So you had, the Latin, Greek Latin, and all the other languages like French, Italian, Spanish, etc., etc. And you had Sanskrit on one side and all the other derived languages from there. And what was remarkable is that in the Western context, each of these languages had become a different country, whereas all the languages under Sanskrit are held under one nation still. So I'm just wondering, because languages in psycholinguistics do program our perception of the world as well. So the more analytical we become, the more in parts, and therefore the specification of the parts. It's just like in medicine today. If you want to become a specialist of your thumb, you know only about the thumb. You don't really need to know about the rest in that
Right.
sense. So in terms of languages, the way it sort of works out the mind is that when you start focusing on the parts, then you can get very interested in the parts and their, the unique characteristics around those parts. Whereas with Sanskrit, since it has this synthetic nature around it, it somehow seems to have held everything else within it because it remained alive as the connection through them all. It was just a fascinating find.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, very nice. Thank you. Thank you for today. And so we will continue next time, I guess. And so we will see, or we will go straight to the sounds and look how they are building the meanings. Yeah. So starting from Varna Sphota. Yes, Santosh, you're saying something, but you have to unmute yourself. We don't hear you. No? Okay. You didn't
Santoshi,
say.
did you want to say something? Santoshi, did you want to say something?
Oh, maybe not. Maybe I'm just.
No, 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 could you unmute? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Santoshi. Can't hear you still.
There's some problem
No,
with this.
can't hear you still. Samasya asti.
Yeah, he's on mute, but not heard.
Maybe you remove, if you
Remove
the
remove from the computer. Yeah, please. Because if you are plugged in the computer, you remove from the computer first, and then we will hear you. Yes? No, we can't hear.
Can you say something now? Santoshji?
Yes,
Oh,
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
yes.
Now, in Sanskrit, there are words which seems to have no dictionary meaning. Where do these words fit in?
For example, tell me the
It sound like clean. Now,
Oh,
what meaning
bija
has clean
mantras.
got? Yeah.
Bija mantras are very special for other reasons. That is Varna Sphota, actually. That's exactly where the Varna plays the role. You have these beautiful I'm. Somebody was asking me, I have another group on etymology. What is I'm and Aum and I'm? We will come to it next time. We will speak exactly on this. What is Varna and how Varna has a meaning? Powerful.
And they are sounds without meaning, without dictionary meaning. They obviously have.
Santoshji, your voice is breaking. It's like coming and going. Santoshji, your voice.
Yes, yes. Why is that happening? I don't know.
That's internet. Oh, again, not.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
We hear you now.
We have to stop. You have a class.
Yeah, I have
at
another.
7:30.
We will continue this. This is a very important thing, and also about knock-knock language and actually language which is related to the etymons. Yes, Subbarao, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, yes, to add to that, see, I find like when I go to online Sanskrit dictionary for a particular word, even a very short word, I find quite a number of meanings which are at times I realize some of the meanings are totally different from each other. So what is the evolution of this kind of a concept in Sanskrit? I think it is better to understand this before, because if I want to find the meaning for let us say some particular verb,
I understand.
it is
What
given
you're
in. It's like it's given in a different particular gender.
Sure.
And particular this thing, and then some word is added or some letter is added, and then it gives a totally different meaning. So how, as a Sanskrit student, one can understand the exact, in the initial stages, the fundamentals we can easily understand, there should be no problem. But over a period of time, as we start learning Sanskrit more and more, it's going to become difficult.
Yeah, we need to develop this flexibility in the mind to see how the applied significances come into existence. significance, applied significances, applications. Once you have that sense, once you see that that is, oh, that's the quality which was applied to describe this object or this subject, then you can figure out. And this is something which Sanskrit brings as a gift to us, this flexibility in the mind.
There's just one thing I wanted to ask you. Every Wednesday, do you have a class from 7:30 onwards?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. I can make it earlier for half an hour for us, that we would not have a problem if you want to.
Okay, I don't know what is the everybody. So if you want, we can start at 6 o'clock or 6:30 to 7:30 is good, because he needs to go at 7:30 generally. So,
is it okay for you for half an hour earlier?
6 o'clock.
It's okay with me. It's okay with me also. 6 to 7, 7:15 is okay,
Absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do it like that, so that you're not rushed and you're not, your other time.
There is always a little more, yes, because we are just warming up at the end. Now we are ready to engage. We have to end.
There's more of communication, as they say now. But
Dhanyavada. Okay.
Okay, dhanyavada. See you.
Dhanyavada.
See you.
Dhanyavada.